Hi everyone, today is the second day of Navratri and today's color is supposed to be orange. So I don't have too many orange plants in my collection, but I hadn't done a video on Tolumnia orchids. So I thought today, given that there is a little bit of orangish yellow in here, I thought I'll do this video. But before that, I want to show you some other orange in my collection. So this is a philodendron. This is called the Prince of Orange. And I don't have to tell you why. Look at the beautiful orange shade on the leaves. The new leaf always starts off orange and then slowly develops into green. So that's Prince of Orange. And then this is the marigold. This variety is especially a little deeper red with the orange center. But typically you also get marigold in orange color. So this one I don't have a video yet. For philodendron, there's a detailed video, so I suggest that you look for that video on my channel. Moving on to Tolumnias. So Tolumnias, if you look at these orchids, if you see the blooms on these look a lot like Oncidium orchid blooms. Dancing lady orchids, they look the same. And in fact, in the earlier, they were actually classified under the Oncidium family. They were called the Equitant Oncidium orchids. They then were reclassified into a different category of their own called Tolumnias. Now Tolumnias are epiphytes. Okay, and if you have grown Phalaenopsis orchids, Tolumnias are easy to grow. I have covered Phalaenopsis in great detail in the channel, so you can look for that video as well on Phalaenopsis care. Tolumnias come from the Caribbean basin. Okay, so again epiphytic, which means that they grow on trees. They are endemic to the Caribbean region, which means that they get a lot of rain. You also get a lot of wind. Based on that, they do like to dry between waterings. So from a media standpoint, they are these very small little plants. So they like to be in media which can give them a lot of air circulation. So something like charcoal or bark, pine bark, is good as media for them. I have also mounted one of these in obviously sphagnum moss. But one thing to keep in mind when it comes to sphagnum moss media is that if the media gets too wet, Tolumnias can rot. Okay, the easiest way to kill your Tolumnia orchids is to overwater them. So that's something that you need to think about when you have Tolumnias. So going back, beautiful flowers. The blooms are just like Oncidium dancing lady blooms. They come in an assortment of colors. You can find thousands of varieties of Tolumnia, so and in different colors. And they come in these beautiful patterns as well, multiple colors. If you see this, they have these lovely patterns on the petals as well. From the watering standpoint, they like to be watered well and they like to dry between waterings. In terms of soil, they like media that gives them enough circulation. So obviously you can't grow them in regular potting mix. Given that they are epiphytes, you have to grow them in orchid media, especially bark and charcoal is the preferred media. Now, based on the media that you're using, your watering schedule will change. For instance, for charcoal, I need to water these almost every day or every 2 days. Water them deeply because the charcoal dries pretty quickly. Versus if you're growing them in sphagnum moss, something like this I would water once in a week or once in 8 to 10 days and check whether the media is relatively dry between waterings. So it all depends. Your watering schedule really depends on what kind of media you're using. Underwatering is still okay. Overwatering is never good with Tolumnias. Another thing about Tolumnias is that they are spikes. They can kind of flower. I'll give you an example here. So this one was a flower spike which has since dried. But if you see, there's a new spike that has come in from on the same stem and it is going to rebloom. Now this will happen only if this original one doesn't dry out. This example, for instance, this one will not rebloom again, but this still has a chance because this is still green and this is completely brown. So this I can cut it off So this is a sterilized scissors. So what I can do is I can just go in there and remove off this spike, because this is not going to bloom, but I'm going to keep it here for a little while to see if this one will respike. So a lot of them are respikes. Like if you see this one as well, it is respiking here, it has respiked here. So multiple spikes. So don't cut the spikes as soon as the blooms are done. Wait to see if there will be any more additional spikes coming on the same one. And this is how the buds look like. They look really pretty. So they start off like this, and yeah, the challenge is when you have buds like this, very difficult to know what color comes out of it. It's always a surprise, right? So this one blooms like this. So from this bud, you'll never know that it's this design or pattern. So this is how it looks like. It's all about Tolumnias. In terms of fertilization, again, I would suggest weekly with Tolumnias, dilute fertilizer, because these are sensitive plants and they don't like heavy fertilization. They don't do too well with salt, a lot of salt in the soil or the media as well. So once in a while, if you're fertilizing them often, once in a while, rinse the media very well. Just with water, so that any kind of salt buildup in the media can go, right? And they can grow again. So there is no specific season, right, Phalaenopsis, wherein they go through a cycle. They like a lot of humidity. These are orchids that love humidity. More than 60-70% is what they prefer. So keep these orchids in a humid environment, give them ample water, give them enough light. Okay, they like bright light. So if I were to compare a Tolumnia with the Phalaenopsis and Cattleya, for instance, they come in between in terms of range of light. While Cattleyas can even do well in direct sunlight, and Phalaenopsis cannot survive direct sunlight. Tolumnias are somewhere in the middle. They do like bright light and they require bright light in order to bloom. So that's about light, temperature, soil and fertilizer for Tolumnias. They are the little orchids of the orchid kingdom. Absolutely pretty. They can be mounted as well, but you have to ensure that they don't get overwatered when you mount them and they don't rot. Little sensitive, but the cutest orchids with beautiful flowers that can last quite a long time, right? At least for 15-20 days easily. So that's Tolumnias for you. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.